Hello everyone, this is Aaron Frankhouse, the Fifth Eye Gamer. Over this past week and a half of recording, I managed to learn just how much effort goes into making an actual Let's Play. I had to make multiple takes, avoiding my mind to spoiler material for each one as per the rules of Fifth Eye Unplugged, and I had to preoccupy myself between takes as the videos upload. My upload time, at its most generous, is 731% of actual recording time. That's 2¼ hours for every 18 minutes, well, 18 1/3 minutes of video. Do you have any idea how long that is? And yet, like Rise of Lyric itself, I don't regret a single second of the recording. In fact, I find that Let's Plays are more tolerable if you enjoy the source material. No offense to the masochists who play notoriously bad games, and a heartfelt salute to PokeCaptain and his crew for their legendary LP of Sonic 06. Speaking of Sonic 06, I think Rise of Lyric has done a grave disservice being compared to that game, let alone disfavorably. During my experience, I only ran into a single bug where Knuckles would try to keep attacking an enemy I threw into the void long ago. And aside from the force field issue in Crater Lake, which thankfully was introduced after the stage jump feature, so you only have to redo the stage instead of the whole game, the bugs everyone talks about appear to be the kind you have to go out of your way to invoke. Compare that to Sonic 06, which had characters falling through the floor, Silver's telekinesis when Sonic faces him, the billiards puzzle, and End of the World, and you'll understand what I'm talking about. On top of that, Chris Sen pointed out that the reason things went south with Rise of Lyric is because they were struggling against CryEngine the whole time. I imagine that if it was more optimized to third-person platforming, let alone a Sonic-esque game, we might have had more of a masterpiece on our hands. Of course, that is limiting the majority of complaints to gameplay elements. There's also been complaints about the story and the characterization, which I find odd because I can see where events connect. You know, that reminds me. Perhaps now would be a good time to explain the origin of the name Fifth Eye Gamer. As you can see, I wear glasses, and for most of my life, and we all know that 4 eyes was a common grade school insult for those who wore them. However, I can't place why, but for some reason I started becoming able to figure out how events go between games into given continuity if I pay enough attention. As an example, we have Pokemon Black and White. During the media blitz in the initial reveal wave, it was shown that Team Plasma was formed around the idea of Pokemon liberation. While at least one person felt that it meant disrupting a Pokemon-centric economy which would ruin Unova, I found a more sinister possibility behind the scenes. That someone would use this campaign as an excuse to disarm society and take over unopposed. Back in Coliseum and XD, you have to remember that wild Pokemon are rarer than water, and given how the only flowing water in the Eklo Wastes happens to be in Fanax City, that's saying a lot. Agate Village is its own verdant part of Ore, and thus doesn't count. Because wild Pokemon are so rare, people have to import Pokemon from other regions if they don't want to settle with what's naturally available, and Cypher was seen hijacking a ship of these imports at the very start of XD. Logic should denote that Cypher would have nigh complete control over the region if they were to dominate the Pokemon import trade. As a result of knowing this, I suspected that Team Plasma's liberation campaign was meant to disarm the people of Unova so that they could take control, and that Poor N was nothing more than a gigantic tool to that end. And as it turned out, I was dead on. I could go on about how much of a failure Team Plasma is in general, but I was surprised at how correct my guess was, and so far in advance at that. As another example, back when good old Death Battle was airing its Felicia vs. Taukaka episode, I found myself getting into the Blaze Blue story as a result. And yet, while Tao was my gateway, I found myself more drawn to Makoto. For some reason, there was more to her character than the baseline story was showing, which should be striking due to her relationship with 3 of the core protagonists and both of the antagonists. This, of course, was before the Imperator decided to get involved. When Extend arrived, and some of the more insane folks started throwing around Mary Sue accusations, I started studying Slight Hope in detail to understand what happened and why, as well as how it correlates to the rest of Continuum Shift. While I found the answers I sought, which were very contrary to the insanity, I also found that without his precious time loop and Continuum Shift abuse, Hazama, and his alter ego Terumi by extension, made so many tactical errors that I came to the realization that he was unfit for his rank in library intelligence. Therein came my next prediction before Chron Phantasma hit. That Makoto's hand in affairs would, at some point in the series' future, cause Hazama and Rice's plans to topple in on themselves. I was right, but not in the way I was expecting. Sorry about that. But I can't really go on too much because of spoilers. All that I really can tell you about right now is that both of them needed to keep a better eye on Tsubaki. Yeah. Between those two, I find that trying to read into a story gives me ideas where I could go next, but in a sense it's kind of boring since if you can conceive of the exact flow of a story, what's left to surprise you? Still, trying to figure out is entertaining while it lasts, especially for a story that has just started or is starting anew. Oy! That's why I was looking forward to Sonic Boom. Even though the characters were similar to the modern Sonic series, the story was a parallel continuity unto itself, meaning that very few, if any, of the rules for modern Sonic applied. Well, that and seeing Amy score a 3-point landing whereas everyone else hit the ground full force was a sight in itself. You'd be surprised what they've done with her, if you've been paying attention. Anyway, that's all from here. I'm going to publish the Fifth Eye Unplugged episodes daily starting Thanksgiving. I'm going to think about what I'm going to LP next, but I want to have just as much fun with my work as anyone who's watching this. If you have any recommendations or criticisms about my acting, feel free to post them in the comments below. I have no intention of upgrading my equipment just yet, unless I know for a fact I can go no further as an individual. Without a vibrant soul to put in my work, the finest technology's products are still doomed to be second-rate. Well, have fun. This is the Fifth Eye Gamer, signing off.